I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda, and you're listening to Hard Knock Life.
Well, it's the NOC in full color, you see me? The Hard Knock Life, comics, movies, and TV, yeah. Pop culture.
Welcome to Hard Knock Life. I am Keith Chow.
I am Britney Monet.
Hi, I'm Dominic Ma.
Welcome to February. We finally made it.
Yep. It only took 2 years to get through the first month of 2022, so, it'll only take 16 years to get through this whole year by my math.
Well, let's hope not. How you guys doing?
I'm great.
Yeah? I hear you did your homework finally and caught up on the show that I forgot to watch this week.
You were touting it real hard. But yes, there are a lot of shows. We understand.
Yeah, too much content.
Yeah, I actually caught up, and I am 100% caught up. Like, I've seen the new episode, so...
Before we dive into the most recent Peacemaker, again, I didn't watch it, but feel free to spoil. I will get around to it eventually. Brittany, what is your opinion on... I know you saw the pilot, and then now that you're caught up, what is your overall impression of the show? Did I hype it up too much? Were you like, what the fuck is Keith talking about?
No, I really liked it. Like, I liked it from the first episode. It was just like... we never got, me and my brother. So I found out he actually had been watching the show without me and didn't tell me. So I was like, hey, Khalil, we really need to catch up on, like, Peacemaker. And he's like...
I've been watching it. What you talking about?
He was like, I've been watching it. And I was just like... I thought we were watching this together.
The betrayal.
Like, I know. I was so upset. But he ended up rewatching the episodes with me. And so we rewatched them. And then, like, I think I had to go to work. And when I came back from work, we watched, like, the newest episode.
Yeah. But you're actually a fan.
Oh, yeah. Like, I liked the first episode. I was just like, I just kind of didn't get around to watching them until now. And I like it. You were right. I like Vigilante.
I knew you would. He's your type.
Yeah,
I know your type.
Yeah. No, I like it, though. I really like...
Even without his pinky toe? You still think he's...
Yeah, I was dying. That was funny. He was like, oh, what was I'm not Vigilante. When he was all, like, trying to, like, change his voice. That was so funny. But no, I really do like the friendship that's being built between Peacemaker, or Chris, I guess you could say, and...
Adebayo.
Yeah, I was trying to remember how to say her last name.
I don't know what I was doing this week, but I forgot to watch Peacemaker. I guess Peacemaker doesn't come out until, like, what, Thursdays? Is that when Peacemaker comes out?
I'm not sure what day it comes out.
Because I know, Wednesday's all about Boba Fett, and we will get to Boba Fett eventually.
Yes.
But, Dominic...
Well, it's really interesting.
Feel free to discuss episode, 6?
Because it gets into some, severe racial dynamics, and gets, spoiler alert, the, white supremacist villain gets a costume. Which was hinted at throughout the series, right? Because his dad is the White Dragon, and you even see the White Dragon costume, I think, at 2 episodes prior. So I know it left off with Adebayo finding out that Myrn is actually a butterfly, and the cliffhangers, he attacks her, apparently. So tell me what happens. If you haven't watched it and you don't want to be spoiled, come back, because we're going to spoil Boba Fett after this too, so just don't listen to this episode if you're out on pop culture this week. But Brittany and Dominic, please tell us about Peacemaker Episode 6.
As you know, it picks up from that moment, I think, pretty much, where, like, he chases her out and you're like, oh no, something's gonna happen to her, but he is actually nice. He's a good butterfly, I guess you could say, because he talks about how he just doesn't like actually really being in Myrn's head, because he has all of, like, Myrn's memories, and that how Myrn was really a horrible, bad person. And so, yeah.
So the butterflies really do take over other people's, like, consciousness. It's not like that these are, like, robot. These aren't, like, suits that butterflies wear. They invade your body and take it over. So Myrn was a real person before he became a butterfly.
But the thing is...
They have to learn about all your shit, your particular head.
But you die because of how they enter your body is very...
Through the butthole, right? Isn't that what that was in the PowerPoint?
They could.
Through the mouth hole, as far as I saw. Is there a butthole?
Well, in the PowerPoint,
it seems very on brand for James Gunn. Oh, okay.
In the PowerPoint, is any orifice the butterfly could enter, and there was a whole joke about them coming through the butthole.
Yeah, but
thanks HBO.
But the ones that we saw, it was all entered through people's mouths, and that was very horrible.
So butterflies themselves, are they necessarily bad? Because, Peacemaker, Chris has been carrying a butterfly around for like the entire series, right? He's got one in a glass jar that he smokes with and feeds that honey material to. So like
that one escapes. So it ends up getting out because you know how what's the name of the detective? Because she ends up figuring out
Detective
Song.
Yes, so she ends up figuring out that the prints aren't the right prints and everything like that, and she's trying to get it fixed or whatever. But then I guess she's able to somehow get a task force to go to Peacemaker's trailer place or whatever. And Vigilante happens to be there while this is going on, and they sneak out, and then Vigilante tapes the jar like around onto his back, and then when they're like on a tree trying to escape, he like falls, and then the glass breaks. But at first I thought he killed the butterfly. I was like, oh no, he crushed it too. But he didn't, and the butterfly flies away and ends up taking over. Well, this is a big spoiler. Ends up taking over Detective Song.
Oh.
Yeah, it was very violent.
Is that that's the end of the episode? Like she's now a butterfly?
No.
That's
not the end of the episode.
So a little bit of she's becoming the butterfly dragon lady. Which is
really?
fun.
Well, that's unfortunate.
But I mean, it's a cool thing because she gets to be zombie alien for a while. And there's a pretty funny dialogue about why one should say Oriental or Asian or not among the Peacemaker task force. So there's still some funny, like, Asian American gags going on.
What was your impression of the most recent episode, Dominic?
I mean, it was cool. I don't know about those butterflies. Do you remember the old Star Trek Next Generation episode where they're, like, invaded by little creatures that go in their intestinal tract or something? At the end, like, one blows up, and it's just like... I don't know. I only bring it up because this one left a strong impression on me because it was really gross. It was one of those alien chest burster kind of things. Anyway, this is all a long way to say I'm a little squeamish on the invasive body parasites things, and I know they're just leading up to some big like.
Oh wait, I do remember. You said season 1 of Next Generation.
Head blows open.
Yeah, the Admiral's head blows up. I remember that.
Yeah. Wasn't that kind of
that was intense
extra
for 1987
for a Star Trek episode
on syndication. At like 7 p.m.
His fucking head blows up and he's got a slimy alien
I remember now.
inside. And I just know, because this is HBO Max and it's James Gunn, that this is where this is going.
Well, we did get a chainsaw through the gorilla 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was brutal.
But one thing I do think about this Peacemaker episode is ramping up to the final conclusion quite well, because you've got Song with like a alien army of butterflies on the way.
Yeah.
And that's just one of the problems, because on the other side there's Peacemaker's fucking racist dad, who is sort of marshalling his forces, and he goes into the, secret KKK cave and gets his white dragon costume. And a little bit of funny comics lore. So White Dragon is a DC character, sort of an obscure one. At one point, again, this goes back to James Gunn has read all the Suicide Squad comics. One version of the White Dragon was in Suicide Squad, like as a sort of wannabe white supremacist gang lord named, I think, William Tell or something, or William Hill. Maybe that was it. Anyway, so this is again adhered to the obscure characters of the DC side, but also fun fact: there's a Marvel character named White Dragon, who is an obscure spider villain who I always kind of liked, but he's like a Chinese guy. He's like a Chinese
that kind of dragon, not the KKK
dragon
kind of
archetype,
dragon,
right? So now when I got to think about that, I was like, oh, I always liked the Marvel White Dragon, but now they're probably never going to use that character on the Marvel side, because it turns out that we Chinese guys are not only white adjacent, but we are White Dragon adjacent. Unfortunately, and so they already scooped that one up for.
What is up with the KKK and like dragon iconography?
Because they like to set fire to things, and dragons breathe fire, and they also hoard treasure, which is hoarding whiteness.
So they're very much European dragons then, right? They're like Smaug type dragons, not like
probably, yeah.
not Chinese dragons.
I overanalyzed it, but like that's where I would go with it.
Yeah, we don't want to drag dragons down with that whole thing.
Exactly.
Dragons are broad, and they just happen to like them also.
So wait, butterflies, good or bad? I'm still confused.
So I think most of them are probably bad, but the one that happens to be in Mern is good, and kind of is just like, this is kind of what we have to do to survive on Earth. type of thing.
I thought he was being kind of like the conscientious objector to the whole invasion plan.
And that's why Murn's like determined to stop the butterflies. He's like the one butterfly who wants to stop the invasion of the butterfly.
Yeah,
basically.
even though I think like they kind of need a new home. I think the problem is that I think he said they need a new home because their planet was like something. I think, unless I'm like making it up, trying to make Murn nicer in my head, but I think that's what they said. But the one that goes into Detective Song is not a good one
at all. Oh, see, that's surprising because I thought like they were setting up this like friendship basically between that butterfly in the jar with Chris, because again they were sharing a bong together. He was feeding the butterfly, and I think that's the butterfly that flew out of one of the senators, right?
Goff or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is this whole funny scene where they're talking and trying to communicate with Goff before it breaks out and gets in Song. And you never know. That may play in the end. Maybe they have a peaceful conversation based on their old connection. Maybe the trick is that, Peacemaker like talks it out with Song via the butterfly that's in her head as opposed to just shooting everybody.
Yeah.
Or, more likely there's probably shooting everybody and then some kind of peacemaking conversation. But I'm just guessing.
As you said, James Gunn has like, if we look at the pattern of how his climaxes go, they usually do go a different way than what we expect. And right now it's setting up to be this like 3-way battle between Team Peacemaker and the Argus, agents like Harcourt and Economos and Murn. And then you have the white supremacists marshalling with the White Dragon, and now you have Song and the Butterflies, which again, now I'm saying it, Song, Butterfly, Dragon Lady, it's very, I can see why it's very Orientalist, like making Song.
Yeah, it is very much like that. But just like, that's the kind of thing that's, say a James Gunn doesn't care about, or it's
some of the butterflies,
it's enough in the field that's fine.
Some of the butterflies did go into some of the white supremacist dudes who were still in jail because of that whole scene where basically Song, or Butterfly Song, I don't know how to say this, but she is able to contact all of the other butterflies that are kind of on Earth, and then she brings them all inside the police station or / jail. And takes over all of the people there, including the person that Murn had planted there to like kind of like help with the Peacemaker stuff. That guy got taken over too, which I think he was a Vittori from Twilight, even though it's totally off topic.
But next week is the finale.
Yeah, so there's
that's what it's all leading up to, some big battle.
So it's cool. So there's an army of alien possessed cops and alien possessed white supremacist gang guys, and they're all converging together, and there's going to be a big fight. Yeah, so the tension is there. Can I just add another thing about Peacemaker that I was just thinking about? Like, I mean, again, I resist fawning over this show because to a degree it is centering the white guy perspective and what he thinks about everything. On the other hand, like, I do think in a way it's a way forward for the superhero movies in the same way that Watchmen was. I mean, I know this is like a little bit of a leap to make, but how everyone complains right now about the superhero movies are repetitive, they're formulaic, they're kind of, and they might have reached their greatest achievement with Endgame, and like now this is an argument. I'm not saying we follow this argument, but that's a feeling. But I always like to think that like HBO's Watchmen series really did show the way forward past in the post Endgame period. Because it was honoring the source material, but not like, totally beholden to it. It was taking it to a new place, exploring the potential of what that source material did. So using both the best of what was established and, imaginative powers moving forward. And in a way, I think, because James Gunn is just getting better at making these superhero shows, that's happening here with Peacemaker. I think it is sort of showing the way forward. I don't know if that's going to be borne out by the end. I just wanted to present as a possibility.
Well, you sold me. I'm gonna watch episode 6 as soon as possible so that I'm prepared for. Yeah, I believe next week is the finale, right? Is that really what? Good. I the reason I wanted you guys to catch up is that so you could school me on the episode I wasn't going to watch.
Well, that's what we're here for.
I don't know. They keep showing the flashback of Rick Flag, and I'm just like, bring him back from the dead.
As a butterfly.
No. Oh. No, because
Do you think we're going to get any Suicide Squad cameos next week in the finale? Do you think it's weird that they Viola Davis does an Amanda Waller cameo in the first episode? You would think that's got to pay off at the end. Again. You're not going to see Weasel, and who else survived the movie? And we're definitely not getting Harley. That's for sure. They can't afford Margot Robbie.
It is. I hope it's someone with powers, because I don't know why they're just invested with this one guy who's trying to operate his helmet weapon equipment, but that's a whole other story.
Idris is still around, Bloodsport. Ratcatcher's still around.
Yeah, I heard that there's another Suicide Squad character getting a spin-off show.
Yeah,
so it could be Bloodsport or Ratcatcher too.
Right, whoever that character is could be the one who comes out at the end, and then they follow them.
Obviously, it's Blackguard.
Yeah, because that's right. Because Pete Davidson needs to.
Can come in.
Yeah.
He was sacrificed too soon in Suicide Squad. Maybe he's not really dead.
I feel like they could have had a lot of... Well, I don't know. His face was pretty much gone. I feel like they could have had a lot of fun with keeping him around, in my opinion.
Oh, they've got other faces.
King Shark's still around, right?
Yes.
He survived. Maybe King Shark shows up.
I would like it if it's Dollman. Not that he's showed up, but he's been referenced, and I thought that Dollman joke in episode 3 or whatever it was pretty fun.
Oh, and then Matter Eater Lad, right? We could get a Matter Eater Lad.
Matter Eater Lad. Did they mention Matter Eater Lad?
One of the episodes, Peacemaker did.
I remember hearing that.
He ate a Wendy's or something.
Oh, he also goes to
hero names
he
ever.
He goes to remember the janitor in the first
episode?
in
the hospital, yeah.
Yeah, he ends up going to his kids show and tell thing.
And right. That's the clip I've been seeing on YouTube really and stuff. Funny. Is that Peacemaker in a classroom? So that's from the actual episodes. That's not a promo that they shot. He's actually in this one.
Yeah, and one of the kids, what did they ask him about Batman? And
they asked him about the Flash. Did they say he met the Flash?
Yeah, they asked him about the Flash.
That's one thing, right?
Oh, he's a douche. Everyone's with the Flash or whatever he said. And then the one kid was like, "Do you know so and so? He used to work at Starlight Labs." And then he's like, "No." And she made drinks or something there. She's like, "Oh yeah, I know her." And she's like, "I think he might be my real dad."
That was good. Yeah.
I was just and then they don't kind of pick up on it. I was like, all right. It was really funny. I thought that was hilarious.
Like I said, I'm sold. I'm gonna tune in to Peacemaker for the finale next week. And I'm sorry I missed this week's episode, but I forgot.
It's still there for you.
That's the beauty of streaming. It's always going to be there. Speaking of beautiful things streaming, the show that occupied all of my brain space, I think, and what prevented me from watching anything else, because I may or may not have watched this multiple times in the last few days, is what we're going to talk about on the other side of the break. So let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about episode 6 of the Book of Boba Fett, holy shit, that really happened.
Dank Ferrick.
Hard Knock Life is brought to you by Goalie Gummies. Let's talk about Goalie's Ashwa Gummies. It's made from a powerful KSM 66 ashwagandha. The ancient Indian herb ashwagandha has been recognized for its medicinal properties for over 5,000 years. Ashwagandha is also an adaptogen, a plant that helps the body maintain balance and adapt to stress. The function of ashwagandha is well documented and backed by modern science. Some of the things that KSM 66 ashwagandha can do is
reduce stress. It can increase. It helps with your overeating and food craving stuff. And I think it also helps with memory retention and information and all of that good stuff.
It's also an ancient aphrodisiac. It supports sexual function and wellness in both men and women.
And that's just the blue ones.
That's just the blue ones. We have blue ones, we have red ones, we have orange ones, we have green ones.
Yes.
And they're tasty. Brittany, you've been quite enjoying the gummies, right?
Yes, because I ended up getting some more, and I have tried the green ones. They taste definitely green, but those ones are supposed to be really good for it's considered more of a multi-vitamin, I think, because it says on it it's multi, and it's supposed to get you with good health from within. Yeah, I like all of them, and I tried the energy chocolate bit one, because they also have chocolate little bites too. That one is for energy, one is for calm, and I can't remember what the green one is for. But yeah, I tried the energy one, and they're really tasty. So I definitely say that you need to check out Goalie, because I'm enjoying them. So
Yeah, the super greens are actually, they're made from a probiotic blend of essential vitamins and minerals that you can find in vegetables such as Brussels sprouts, spinach, broccoli, kale, but tastes way better than all of those vegetables combined. Not that I don't like those vegetables. I love me some Brussels sprouts, spinach, kale, asparagus, broccoli. But one gummy, you get more vitamin A than 62 Brussels sprouts, more thiamine than 62 cups of spinach. You get more iron in one serving of gummy, Goli gummy, super green gummies than 8 cups of broccoli. So it's a way to get your veggies without having to eat your veggies.
Yes.
Yeah, they're very good stuff. I like these Goli gummies, and they've become part of my daily routine, as I said, and I do feel they're contributing to a sense of mental well-being. I don't know, it's just a little sparkle happens.
And you can get that sparkle too when you get Goli gummies at the website Goli.com. Use our code HARDKNOCK, HARDNOC. You'll get free shipping and 10% off your order. That's Goli.com. Use the code HARDKNOCK, HARDNOC, for 10% off and free shipping. So, if you had to choose between a little tiny lightsaber and a little tiny chainmail armor, which would you choose? Would you choose the little mini lightsaber or the little tiny chainmail armor?
I feel like this is a very loaded and complicated question, because what do I want Grogu to choose is probably very different than what I would maybe choose.
You would take the lightsaber, wouldn't you?
I would take the lightsaber.
Who wouldn't take the... Here's the thing. Like, as adorable as that little Mithril ripoff was...
But yeah, so Mithril's the armor that he wears, right? And it looks...
That's the elven...
Frodo
wears, yeah.
Yes.
And that's kind of like...
That's what Grogu will have, yeah.
Yeah, like a little sweater.
little chainmail sweater.
Made by auntie and uncle. But yeah, you were saying.
So which would you choose, Dominic? We know Britney wants that little tiny Yoda lightsaber.
I really think it's a false choice. Why do you gotta like?
So do you think Grogu's gonna like? I'm taking both, Luke. Peace. I'm out of here. I gotta go find my dad.
Yeah, I mean, I realize they articulate it as a choice of life path, and they do actually a pretty good job of spelling out. Well, Mandalorians are very attached and loyal to each other, and Jedis are distanced and forego attachment in the Buddhist way, I guess. But it's a little, I don't know. It just sounds a little like institutional religion-y for the Jedi to be saying you must not attach to anything like chainmail. You must forego any connections like if you take Uncle Boba's chainmail, you can't be a Jedi. You want this path only. I don't really buy that.
Well, I think it's because the problem is, especially with reading the High Republic books, which, like I said, those ones take place 200 years before most of the current storylines we know. It's not about the attachments, because there's a moment where a young Padawan actually loses their master, and they get a new master, and that master talks with them, and they're like, it's okay if you feel this sadness and hurt and anger over what has happened to your master. Your problem is you need to learn how to let those feelings go and be able to still do your job as a Jedi. And the issue is it gets to a point where it becomes, they don't tell people that, no, it's okay to have these emotions. You just need to know how to let it go and separate yourself from that, so you can be a Jedi and do what you need to do, and don't let that affect your duty as a Jedi. But it gets to a point where you can't have any attachments. You cannot. Well,
and that's the thing. Yeah. Like, the prequels were all about how the Jedi basically lost their way, and we're too dogmatic in that aspect of the religion, and not flexible in what that means. My question, though, is like, for all we know about Luke's Jedi training and where Luke is at the end of Return of the Jedi, I didn't get the sense, and but later we also find out in Last Jedi that he did kind of like reestablish the Jedi Order, and it wasn't until he and Yoda have that conversation in Last Jedi that he realizes that he shouldn't follow the Jedi text, that like the old ways and start the new ways, which gets abandoned by the 9th movie, but whatever. We're not going to talk about that. But so I guess, it was a little odd for me that like Luke was clinging so hard to like that old school style of Jedi teaching. Because you would think like the way Luke was taught was very much, I mean, he was too old, right? He was already like a 20-year-old when he was being taught the way of the Jedi. He was like, fuck you, Yoda, I'm gonna go save Han and Leia, you know, in Empire. It was his connection to his father that brought Anakin back. So like, you would think that Luke would have learned a different lesson, especially like the bond between father and son, that he would see that in Grogu, and maybe that's what happens in the next episode. He realizes Grogu's way is different, and his connection to his father is what's going to ultimately help him along the way. I don't know.
I don't think this is intentional, but I think that's great because it sets up this space between what happened with Luke after Return of the Jedi and how he got to sort of grumpy old Luke in episode 7 or 8. Because they're supposed to take on faith, and, you know, people were sort of, even Mark Hamill himself was sort of questioning, how does he become this sort of grouchy old guy? But to me, what this episode potentially shows is like he is so idealistic now. He's like so like, the teacher, I'm gonna bring everything back to the glory days, blah blah blah, and just in an ironic, you know, in a dramatic irony way that perfectly sets you up for this big fall of disappointment, which would totally change your personality.
I think also because he technically is the only Jedi, because remember, Ahsoka is no longer a Jedi.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, of all the people he's like consulting with, Ahsoka would be like, man, that Jedi shit is whack. We don't need to follow like that stuff. You know, of all the people, I would think she would be the one who would be in Luke's ear and be like, you don't have to be the old. It doesn't have to be the old ways, Luke.
Maybe like, I don't know. Maybe she feels she doesn't have a place in that conversation because she's not a Jedi. And I feel like he's in this place where he has no one else to really show him how to train another Jedi, really, that he is going to rely on the old texts and going to rely on the old stuff, and that he becomes so absorbed, like you guys have said, on relying on the old stuff. That's what's going to lead down to him and his downfall.
Right, like they're a new convert to the religion, and they get so like into it and so obsessed that they become themselves very like pious, and you know, like it's like the born again Christian, right? Like, you know, that's where it leaks a born again Jedi. But we are way ahead of ourselves, because if you haven't watched this week's episode of Boba Fett, you might be thinking, why are they talking about Luke Skywalker and Grogu? Did they really show Luke Skywalker and Grogu on the next episode? Like, oh, hell yeah, they did. Yep. Were you surprised? Like, I was surprised, because I thought, like, even when Mando at the end of last week said, I gotta go see my friend first, I thought, okay, either Mando's gone for, like, most of the episode and then shows up at the end, because they're obviously gonna save, you know, Grogu for the Mandalorian proper show, not the side quest on Boba Fett. And there's no way we're gonna see Luke Skywalker. They barely could get Luke, you know, his face right for like the 30-second cameo that he had last season. Now he would have to be a full-fledged character. There's no way. And this is the way.
That's the way.
Even though it looks like Luke, you can just tell there's no actual acting happening when this version of Luke is realized. So it kind of makes it seem awkward when other people are acting against
he's still CG Luke. I mean, it's still a CG. It's much better CG from last season.
But it's very lifeless still. And I feel like it's because of how I honestly did not like, what was his name? Alden as Han. I did not like his Han. I thought it was terrible. And I feel like because a lot of other people feel the same way as I do about that casting of Han is why they are now doing like the deep fake Mark Hamill look instead of like having another new kid. But I'm like, you know, maybe give Max a chance, because maybe he actually will be a good Luke, because it just feels so lifeless, the performance to me. That's the only
But that's
problem.
the tricky thing about Star Wars too, is like, to your point, when they did actually recast and have different actors play those roles, it went over like a lead balloon. And the only way,
I thought Donald Glover was a good Lando, though. That's the thing.
Sure, right.
So there's proof that you can do it. It's
in the same movie.
It's just you got to really cast the right person who fits the role. And I think, unfortunately, Alden or whatever his name is, I'm sorry, just didn't fit the role. But that doesn't mean you send him hate and stuff like that. That's not okay.
Well, yeah, of course.
Just want to make sure we're covering
I think that's
base.
a really good lens to look at it, because this episode was kind of a benchmark for deepfake video entering our lives, you know? A little bit in that last Mandalorian, and now a lot with composited Luke Skywalker. But I mean, I think it's interesting to bring it up because that young Han Solo was so bad. Maybe they were like, oh, well, we'll invest all the, you know, time and energy into making this deep-faked Luke Skywalker. And you can kind of tell in most of it, like he's speaking off camera because they didn't want to mess with the mouth syncing up with the dialogue too much, except for like one or two shots where they're finally okay, well, it's probably the people are going to notice, or for one or two shots we're going to try with the mouth synced up to dialogue.
Yeah.
But not too many.
And then to find out that it's actually not even Mark Hamill, let's say AI program that learned how to mimic Mark Hamill's young voice. So there's no actual like live Mark Hamill.
Oh, that's Mark's voice. He's doing the voice acting.
Well,
I thought they just
released
rendered
an
his
article that said it's an AI that can mimic Mark Hamill's young voice. So it's not current Mark Hamill.
Wait, okay, here's where we get a news source in, because I heard that it was just re-edited from alternate takes and just very carefully spliced together. However, that's just something I heard.
Oh, and I thought, here we go. This is how misinformation spreads.
Yes.
So maybe this is when Spotify takes us down because we're spreading misinformation. But I thought it was Mark Hamill delivering the voice performance, but then filtered through an AI that would make his voice sound like young Mark Hamill. And maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle of all three.
And
right?
no, it could be all those things at once. They have all those tools. The point is deepfake technology has a lot of tools to create this thing.
Yeah.
Which just doesn't necessarily involve Mark Hamill. But I mean, parts of it does. Just his old work. Yeah, so how do we all feel about that? Just deepfaking as a concept. It still throws you off?
I think it should be a no, because I understand how cool it is to see the character come back looking exactly like it did when you first saw them. But I feel like it also, you have this part of you losing an actual genuine performance coming from a human, and I feel like that's the issue, is like, I think Max probably can do a decent enough Luke where you don't need to do this deep fake stuff.
And is it a slippery slope to do because this is a full-on deep fake, but Disney and Marvel kind of set the precedent with like the de-aging, where 1980s Michael Douglas is all of a sudden like on screen, or 1980s Robert Downey Jr.
I think the de-aging is different than just doing a straight up deep fake. Like, they didn't have Mark Hamill on set, because as we know, it's Max on set being him, and then they just add in all the other CGI stuff on top of him. So I feel like it would be different if they were de-aging actual Mark, and then obviously for the moments where they need a stunt double, they have a stunt double. But like, yeah, I don't know. But I want to make it clear, I do think it was cool that Luke was there. Like, it's cool to see Luke again. But yeah,
I find the de-aging weird too. But also, like, I feel like the deepfake thing is this tide that's coming because of technology, and it's almost like there's nothing we can do about it. So it just depends, if we can use it for good or not, and keep it in fiction. I don't want it like in our news sources any more than it already is.
That's true,
because that's like the true danger. And like, if it's just in our movies a lot, okay, fine, because I can't think of like a social pressure that would fight against it now. Like,
would you watch something that reincarnates like Marilyn Monroe or James Dean?
Well, they were trying to do that with James Dean.
Right, because that's the thing. That's the next step in the evolution of deepfake.
I say no, just because, again, like, it's going to lose, like, the actual person being there doing the body work on set. Like, they're not going to get the credit. They might get paid for it, but, like, their performance is going to be filtered through CGI and AI voicing stuff, that it's gonna end up just being a lifeless performance, that it's not. So I think that's the issue. It's not someone giving an actual good performance worthy of like an Emmy or whatever.
But now that you say that, though, my brother and I were texting each other and thinking like, Hamill's giving like a wooden voice performance, and like the one thing Mark Hamill doesn't do badly is voice acting.
Yes.
It's ironic, right? Because he's made his big name as a voice actor, and now he's but he's stitched together, but he's also being like the Jedi, the very solemn Jedi Master voice, which is sort of the most ponderous voice in Star Wars.
But still, like, there is just, you can feel it, that there's no life behind it.
Isn't that a metaphor for what Star Wars fans really want out of their Star Wars? Is just this lifeless reincarnation of what they remember when they were 12 years old? Like, that's kind of like the perfect Star Wars fanboy encapsulation, isn't it?
For a certain sector of them, that's what they want. But I just feel like I understand that you want to hold on to your childhood, but I mean, as Kylo Ren said, let the past die.
Right.
Kill it.
Also, just because, we're the nerds of color, I have to bring up this deep faking thing. Like, there's a great potential for abuse because the whole...
Carrie Fisher didn't want that.
There's something... Yeah, there's both, like, people who have passed and using their body and soul to be in a new movie that they don't know anything about. There's also the issue of, like, it's corrective, like, it's turning back aging so the person looks perfect, perfect and pretty, whatever our idea of perfect and pretty is. And definitely whenever technology starts, like, categorizing what perfect and pretty is acceptable, there's some potential danger there. There's some like, oh, well, maybe we'll just make this person white. Oh, maybe we'll just make this person the gender that or give them, like, long hair and big boobs because we think that's what they're supposed to be. That's the ideal movie vision. And all that is a little questionable. But
well, I'll say this. If we could deep fake Mila Jovovich into the Avengers movies,
see, now
I'm all for just erase Scarlett Johansson out of all the Avengers movies.
Possibilities, right? And is that corrective? That's a sort of fan.
Mila Jovovich should have been Black Widow all along. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the Mila Djokovic should have been Black Widow all along, but I just am not. I think for me also, because as an actor, I'm like, no, I am very against robots taking over our jobs.
Right, exactly. Then that's exactly what it is. So let's talk about the episode in general, because last week's episode was barely a Boba Fett episode. In fact, Boba himself doesn't even show up
on the show
at all. Yeah, it ain't even his show. And then this week, it kicks off with the guy who took Boba's armor, Cobb Vanth. Timothy Olyphant makes his triumphant return.
Yes.
Which
my dad thought was Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, really?
He does kind of look like Pierce Brosnan.
But it definitely embraced the whole Western aspect, which was always like one pillar of original Star Wars. So from that point on, you're like, oh, okay, this is like just going to be cameo show. Because we get a little Cobb Vanth, we get a little Freetown, and it goes from there to like Din Djarin flying to Grogu's, and we get the whole Grogu scene, which again was a big surprise because I thought that was something they were going to save for the Mandalorian proper. And then from there, and it's an extensive scene on that planet where Luke's first temple is being built.
It's like 30 minutes of the episode, of a 48-minute episode.
And then we finally get back to Tatooine. Din joins Boba. We see a little bit of Boba, and from there we go back out to Cobb Vanth, because essentially the plot that kind of got sidetracked is the big war between Boba Fett and the Pike Syndicate. And Boba Fett's amassing his army. He's got the mods. He's got Black Chrysanthemum. He's got his Gamorrean guards, and he needed Mando, but Mando's like, I can get you an army, and he thinks I'm going to get the Freetown folk.
Which is really nice of him. Yeah. Really a stretch for Mando, but go on.
And he goes out to Freetown and he tries to convince Cobb Vanth to send his people to help fight the Pikes, and they refuse. Well, the people refuse. Cobb, I think, is a little bit convinced because he's like, I'll talk to them. Mm-hmm. And Mando leaves. And yet another cameo happens. And this is a cameo for you Clone Wars folks. A stranger in the distance emerges with a big old cowboy hat. And a few weeks ago, Britney, I think off the record, had mentioned you had wanted Cad Bane on the show.
Yes.
Are you working for the volume? Are you in that like studio? Did you have some designs?
No,
is that what you're doing? Are you moonlighting as a production assistant?
No,
on
I would not be allowed to probably do that. From what I know, what Disney does is you have to let them know what podcast you're on, and they hardcore moderate. So no, that's not going on in my life. I would probably be not working as a barista if I was working
well, that's what I'm
Disney.
saying. But are you really a barista? Or are you a barista like at the Disney lot? Because you caught that Cad Bane cameo 3 weeks ago.
Well, it fits his like. Cad Bane is very much a gunslinger, bad guy, western-y type bounty hunter guy. So he fits the whole thing of Book of Boba Fett trying to being a western. Well, I think also the Mandalorian is also like, a western. So it fits the western theme. He does. I was just like, and he doesn't like Boba. he doesn't get along with, like, I don't know. Cad Bane is always fighting with children. I don't understand this, but he's always got beef with children. And he especially does with young Boba. And one of the moments on Clone Wars is he tells Boba that you care too much about people and animals and stuff.
Oh, so Boba's like love of animals? That's a Clone Wars thing? Because it's very much a theme in this show. Every time there's a freaking animal, Boba's like, "Ooh, I love it."
Yeah, Cad literally told him, like, your love for people and all this stuff is not gonna,
That's interesting.
Yeah, so he operates on just doing business. Cad Bane is very emotionless. I don't know, but I like Cad Bane.
Well, now you got Cad Bane in live action.
I know. I was very excited. I was fangirling as I was watching the episode with my dad, and my dad is not caught up to Clone Wars, so he was like, "Who is this?" And I was like, "Oh, it's Cad Bane. He's so cool." Yeah.
Dominic, you had a similar reaction not being a Clone Wars fan.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was. Now I have a little more context. I recognize the alien race, but so he's also a bounty hunter?
Yeah. And he and Boba, apparently they have a fight at some point in between, like, the Clone Wars stuff and before we see him in, like, Empire Strikes Back and all of that stuff.
And apparently on the Bad Batch series, Fennec Shan and Cad Bane had, like, a battle. Mm-hmm. So when Cad Bane shows up next episode and, like, goes toe-to-toe with Boba and Fennec Shan, if you watch the animated series, there's going to be some back.
Yeah, and they'll probably do a flashback to the big fight that apparently they have, but we've never actually seen. And apparently that was going to be the next stuff that Dave Filoni wanted to focus on Clone Wars before it was canceled. And then Disney picked it up and they just didn't go with the...
I wonder if they bring Daniel Logan back to play younger Boba Fett.
Maybe.
And show that flashback with Cad Bane.
Yeah.
Because I still think, I love Tamir Morrison. I say this every week. I think Daniel Logan should have been cast as Boba Fett on the show.
Yeah,
just
I think
for
the not tall enough. I don't know.
Well, you can always like, Tom Cruise has a career in Hollywood. You can make Daniel Logan Boba Fett, but like, I think part of the reason some people have been disappointed in the Boba Fett stuff on Boba Fett, as much as I love Tamir Morrison, the man's 61 years old. He can't move the way we want Boba Fett to move. Like the fight he has with Chrysanthemum in the Bacta tank was like just sad. It was like Vader, Obi-Wan, and New Hope level fighting. You know what I'm saying?
That bad.
Yeah, I don't have that extreme. I liked it because it seemed like brute force of two older creatures wrestling. Literally,
but Boba Fett's not supposed to be 61 years old. But I know, and we've talked about the double sons of Tatooine will age you like a motherfucker. But
no, like I don't have this idea about it because I think Boba Fett, the Mandalorians have their own particular physicality because of the big armor thing.
Yeah,
that's really something I like about it. I don't care if they move like very lithe and smooth like a Jedi or like a Marvel superhero. There's something about, again, that they're lumbering around in the armor that just makes they're gruff and the armor is heavy. I don't know. For me, I'm cool with that.
Me too. I'm on Team Dom on this one.
Yeah, and I don't think it has to be either or. Like I don't know why you have to be like Tamir Morrison can't be in the show if Daniel Logan is in the show.
Right.
They can cut through like just so many different time periods.
No, I get it. In my ideal state and like, I wanted Tamir Morrison to be Captain Rex. Like, I was hoping he would grow a beard and be Captain Rex in the Ahsoka show, which is still possible, right? Like, that could still happen.
He could definitely. He can come back and literally play all of them in live action.
Like, all of the clones. So before we go, I did want to circle back to the Jedi, and which the episode does. It circles back. So there's the whole scene. Mando flies all the way out to the school. Grogu is the only student that Luke has at this point. Mm-hmm. And he wants to see his little buddy, right? He brought him a little gift, and Ahsoka's like, you can't. We've already talked about like the difference between the Jedi way and the Mandalorian way, and Mando brought this up to the armor, like that's against our code. Our code's about loyalty and solidarity, not detachment. But he respects Grogu's wishes, or he respects the wishes of the Jedi, and he's just like, all right, fine, you give this to Grogu.
When he says I came all this way, it breaks my heart.
And then your heart breaks even further when he flies away and Grogu's like, Dad? Dad, is that you?
No. Oh, it's so sad.
So it sets up the end of the episode is Luke has a conversation with Ahsoka, which was, again, for fans of Ahsoka, pretty like mind-blowing that Ahsoka's standing there talking to Anakin's son.
Yeah.
She even says, "You remind me of your father," and it's like, what? That's awesome.
Yeah.
But they have this conversation, and Luke realizes, like he says, Grogu's heart's not in it. He's too attached to Mando. And he sets up this choice that he gives Grogu at the end of the episode. He pulls out a lightsaber. It's Yoda's lightsaber. And there's been some consternation because apparently Yoda's lightsaber was destroyed in the comics. Yeah. But then there's another comic that shows Yoda recreating his lightsaber on Dagobah. So there's just some fan debate about how Luke has Yoda's lightsaber. Yeah. And he opens the little pouch, and it's we already joked about the Mithril little adorable vest of Beskar, and he basically presents in a very lone wolf and cub type scenario. He makes the baby choose between the sword and the ball, right?
Yeah.
And then that's how it ends. We don't know what he chooses.
I don't know. I wish he could do both.
Which might be what happens, right?
Maybe.
It maybe he puts on the little. Were you disappointed it was chainmail? Though I mean, we kind of knew it was chainmail when the armor was like forming little chains. I think Dominic, you even said, "I think it's chainmail." Were you hoping it was at least a little tiny like Mandalorian armor, even if it wasn't the helmet?
I thought it was gonna be a little helmet because of the way the bag was shaped.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're talking about transgressions, artistic transgressions, like is deep faking Luke Skywalker. Okay. I didn't think they could pull off Baby Yoda in Mandalorian armor. I think that would be a bridge too far. Even though it's great as a concept, visualizing in my head, I think that would be one step too silly, one step too much. It would be like a little chibi keychain character, and that's fine. Someone make that Baby Yoda Mandalorian armor. I don't think it's going to play if they actually had, plate armor.
So he's probably going to just wear the chainmail underneath his robes, is what right, we're going to see.
He's a robe and barefoot guy. How weird is it going to be when you put him in the full Iron Man
You don't
suit?
know that. He could rock the Iron Man suit.
By the style of his people. I mean, are you saying you're looking forward to seeing the mini Grogu in Mandalorian armor?
Yes.
I mean, if he does follow the path of the Mandalorian, though, he's going to have to eventually don a helmet too, though, right? Like that's
because it was always one of those weird, disconnect things. Even like when we first saw Yoda with the lightsaber, it was a funny thing. Brain had to do a little reset, right? Because we were always wondering, does he handle the full-size lightsaber or not? So they adjusted that. They gave him sort of like the short version. So they would have to do this other adjustment for Mandalorian armor. And, I think it'd be weird, but then I would say that recreating Luke Skywalker to be young would be weird too. So the floodgates are open.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole new world where we're entering in with Star Wars. Let me ask you this, though. Knowing that these last two episodes have been kind of like shifting the focus away from Boba Fett, and say what you will about the plot line that the Boba Fett story was going in, I don't know how much anyone cares about this Pike Syndicate war. It doesn't seem like the creators give that much of a shit about it.
Starbucks does.
What do you mean Starbucks does? Did you have a betting pool?
Their pike roast.
Oh, that was a big promotional thing with Starbucks. That's what this whole thing has been building up to.
Right on.
But I wonder if some of the complaints about this season or this series would have been ameliorated if they did what I thought they were going to do when they teased Book of Boba Fett at the end of season 2, and just made The Mandalorian this kind of like anthology series about books of different Mandalorians, right? So like the first 2 seasons was the Book of Din Djarin. Season 3 is the Book of Boba Fett, right? And so, but if it's all under the umbrella of the Mandalorian, it wouldn't feel so disconnected that all of a sudden, why is the Boba Fett show not about Boba Fett? Well, it's about Mandalorians, and this is just the Boba Fett chapter. I feel like it would have been more cohesive feeling if that was the case.
They have made it clear they are filming or have filmed season 3 of Mandalorian, and we're going to get that later this year, I think.
Because that way you open yourself up to, and that Din is the like thread throughout, so like it wouldn't be weird if he shows up, but you could have like the Book of Sabine Wren, the Book of Bo-Katan, and just have all of these different Mandalorians instead of being its own show. If this was basically season 3 of The Mandalorian, subtitled The Book of Boba Fett, and then every subsequent season would be a different book of a different Mandalorian, where you had Din being like the thread that kind of like stitches everybody together, since he has the dark. Like, I know I think what all the shows are leading up to is the whole Mandalorian thing, right? Where who wields the Darksaber. That's why I think we're going to get Bo-Katan again. Sabine Wren's supposed to be in the Ahsoka show, even though they recast her, which I think is bullshit. Should be Tia Sircar. Mm-hmm. You have all these Mandalorians floating around, and then, maybe the next Star Wars movie is the actual Mandalorian fight drag out between Bo-Katan and Din Djarin for, like, control of the Darksaber. I don't know. Maybe. But anyway, that's just my thoughts.
Not a bad idea.
It wouldn't feel so disconnected if this was just couched as Mandalorian Season 3.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe Ghost Anakin and Ghost Obi-Wan will make an appearance, because in May we're supposed to get Kenobi.
That may be. Maybe that's the post-credit sequence. It's a musical, the post-credits. Anyway, that's it for this week. What's nerd poppin', Brittany?
Well, I'm almost done reading The Rising Storm, and in reading one of the chapters, I think we might have a Grey Jedi on our hands. It was very interesting. Esler Mann. He's the man, by the way, not just because it's his last name. He really is, like, probably my favorite Jedi from these, besides Vanestra. He's really cool, and I think Oliver Jackson Cohen should play him in live action if they're going to do live action. That's just my thoughts. Since they didn't cast him as Moon Knight. But anyways.
So those High Republic books, you still recommend them?
Yeah, they're so good. And I got, obviously, if you guys follow me on social media, I got Midnight, what's it called? I have it over here. Midnight Horizon by Older, which is supposed to take place right after Fallen Star, which I'm not there yet. But I'm almost done now with Rising Storm. I have like 100 pages or less to go.
Cool.
Good stuff.
Dominic, before you get to what's nerd poppin', congratulations on interviewing Steph and Aisha Curry.
Oh, that's what's nerd popping. Even though it's not very nerdy, that was definitely popping this week. I get to spend 5 minutes with Stephen Curry and Aisha Curry, various superheroes, Golden State Warriors.
You said their names
champions.
so fast that I was like, who is that person?
Stephen Curry and Aisha Curry.
Well, and as someone who lives in the East Bay, like, that should have been extra special for you to talk to.
And and I apologize in advance, like, this video will probably be posted, and I have like a 5-minute interview window, and I waste like 2 minutes of it just fawning over them, telling how much I like them. So yes, you're right, YouTube watchers. I should have spent more time asking questions so they can talk more. But we did get to talk about some fun things, and I got to learn what their favorite karaoke songs were.
That was very cool.
Keith?
Yeah, for me, it's not really nerd popping. It's more of a complaint.
Okay.
The Batman action figures have been released by McFarlane Toys, and I don't love them.
Did it come with a calzone?
No, that's the other thing. I'm like,
it's not a
of
calzone.
All the places, like, I don't know, just Little Caesars did not feel like the proper, like, tie-in. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the Batman's a classier movie, and no shade to those of you who love Little Caesars. Little Caesars is trash pizza,
and it's not even a real calzone.
Well, it's a bat-shaped pizza pie, which is supposed to have like half of it's a calzone, and it just looks like garbage. And I'm like,
I'm sorry, I missed the lead. Is there an ad where Batman gets a calzone?
No, but there is
Caesars?
the tie-in fast food with the Batman is with Little Caesars.
Okay.
And this is an overall like complaint I have with the marketing for the Batman. Is, again, I think it's supposed to be this classy movie. You know, it's this like indie crime thriller type film, but it's still a Batman movie, so you need like your toys and your fast food tie-in. And I just feel like the tone of the toys and the fast food are not matching the tone of the movie. But I don't know. That's just late stage capitalism, I guess.
We don't always get to choose our sponsor.
Marketing for this movie is just rubbing me the wrong way. That's all I'm saying.
Do you have a positive nerd popping?
The one toy I do like from the Batman is their Batmobile. That's a fun toy. I have the Batmobile, and it makes noises. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not like a 12-year-old.
Well, is it weird to say that I'm happy it looks like a car again? I mean,
yes.
It's been so long since it looked like a car.
Can
we be real?
It's not a tank.
It's looked like a tank. It's looked like a little sleek, like, spaceship thing.
Now it's a car.
And there's something refreshing about that.
Yeah, you're right. No, it's great.
Does it spoil what little gadgets it has, the toys?
No, but it makes... Here, hold on.
He's gonna show us. Show it.
It makes little electronic sounds. It's got lights.
Yeah. Batmobile.
It lights up.
Kind of like a Dodge Challenger kind of.
And it's got little Batman inside.
Oh.
So, for those of you just listening, I'm sure this is thrilling entertainment right now.
He's showing us a car, and it looks like a car, but it's clearly also the Batmobile, which is, I think, is a triumph of design. They suggest the Bat, they don't, like, overwhelm you with it.
And while we're at it, all right, shut up. All right, you gotta shut up now. While we're at it, the other thing, that this is a positive nerd popping. It's not quite related to the Batman, but it is in a sideways way. Mm-hmm. Another movie comes out on March 4th called After Yang, starring Colin Farrell, which is by the director Koronada.
I haven't looked at the trailer. What is it about?
So it's a sci-fi movie set in the future in which families buy robots to be like siblings for their children. And in this, the robot starts to malfunction, and they have to figure out. I mean, it's this haunting trailer, and I wrote about it on the Nerds of Color, so I'll link out to it. The director Koronada directed a movie called Columbus a couple years ago with John Cho. Oh. And he's got this like beautiful directorial style. And the movie comes out March 4th, so I'm like, have a Colin Farrell double feature and watch After Yang and The Batman, because that is a beautiful looking movie, and I'm very much excited for it. So yeah, After Yang is my real nerd pop.
And I was like, okay, this looks interesting, but I just didn't get around to watching the trailer.
Yeah. So the Yang is the robot, and he's played by, if you've seen Umbrella Academy, he's one of the actors from Umbrella Academy, Justin Min. Yeah. He plays Yang.
I love him.
I think this is going to be a really cool movie. And again, it comes out March 4th, the same day the Batman comes out, so it's going to be quite a day for Colin Farrell fans. Anyway, Britney, how can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter, because if you haven't heard, my TikTok got banned.
Oh.
What'd you do?
I didn't do anything. It said I violated community guidelines, and I don't know if I wasn't posting enough, if I wasn't posting cool videos.
Damn.
I don't know.
They're harsh.
But I got banned, and a whole bunch of other people did. If you go look at like TikTok support, and they literally have tons of replies to people like, if you go here and report a problem, blah 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 blah, you can maybe get your account back. And it's just like, no, why are you deleting? So I don't know if they thought we were bots because we weren't posting enough, but like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, I didn't like TikTok enough. So, but I'm kind of sad because I did like watching that Scottish guy's video. It's like, he can't pronounce stuff. It's fun. Brutal. But you can follow me on Twitter at Hi Britney Monet and Instagram, and then you can check out at Naomi Podcast for all Naomi Podcast and the backlog of Black Lightning and whatnot.
Dominic.
I'm Dominic Ma on Instagram or Twitter at Dom-Ma, DOMMAH.
And I am The Real Chow on Twitter, _real_Chow, and at Real Keith Chow on Instagram. Follow the Nerds of Color at the Nerds of Color, and go to hardknockmedia.com for this and all the podcasts in the Hard Knock family. Give us a rating and review, particularly on Apple Podcasts, so people can find the show and follow along with us as well. Support us on patreon.com/the Nerds of Color, and go to youtube.com/the Nerds of Color to see all of our videos, including Dominic's interview with Steph and Aisha Curry. And until next time.
Cad Bane rules.
Cad Bane rules? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Good.
I love Cad Bane.
I'm just learning that.